Hello, I'm Varuni and I've come from Melbourne, Australia. So my talk is about to do with the rituals of the in-betweens. So political conflict and opportunities across the globe have led to dispersal of people from their origins. And my creative practice in ceramics explores the rituals of the in-betweens. So the question I pose is, how can domestic rituals undertaken by women from the Tamil diaspora, and I'll explain what that entails, be translated into contemporary ceramic practice? The Hindu rituals I examine originate from South India and the northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka, places of the Tamil ethnic community. Rituals serve as a connection to cultural practice and are the domain of the everyday, as well as being part of auspicious occasions. Now, there are many rituals that are ceremonial rituals that are the domain of males, and women are participants. But the ones I'm concentrating on, women control many types of those rituals practice that occur outside this context. The threshold ritual of Kolam and many others. And offerings accompany rituals. And I'll say a few lines from a poem by Rabindranath Tagore. Pluck this little flower and take it. Delay not. I fear lest the day end before I am aware and the time of offering go by. Practice is giving presence to the feminine in these rituals. Women's cultural links to textiles is synonymous with these, and I translate their vivid colors, patterns of the sari borders, fluidity and delicacy of the ceramic form. I use deconstructed elements of the sari design to convey the precariousness as well as loss of identity in these cultural practices. And Sagam of the In-Betweens is the piece that you're looking at now, where the blue drape captures one that's falling down of the apple green sari that falls during the firing. The intertwining, therefore, of cultural expression. Objects vivid in color take the form of offerings on a table draped with a sari. A vessel form as folds of fabric is made into offerings like a flower. A step with markings. Women's threshold ritual of Kolam in the domestic environment involves a drawing that is made from rice flour at the entrance to a home. And it's transient, the drawing gradually fading as people walk across the threshold. For 3 days at each year, the thresholds of many households in Tamil ethnic communities will be decorated with vibrant colors of the Kolam. The Harvest Festival is a significant calendar event marked by rituals performed collectively by thousands of women. The visual presence of the pottu, or the kolam, and the other traces of rituals indicate that a space has been created and initiated for ritual purposes. They can deepen our understanding of the way visual signs work. The binary encoding of meaning, presence indicating that one state and absence another state. I started exploring the Kolam ritual as an ephemeral ceramic installation to convey transience of a journey of migrants. The ceramic wave patterns combine textile on clay and print design, and participants walk across a border which has got fragile pieces. And I also wanted to explore the impermanent and the permanent, the tangible and intangible within visual articulation of the Kolam. I capture the memory of the previous ritual act of the Kolam by displaying the harvested fragments with markings of my feet in a ceramic form. I also explore it outdoors as an installation. The ceramic pieces were laid on a paved area, and weather and flora interacted with their ceramic installation. This way of that interaction articulates the assimilation of people from the diaspora as part of the new environment. The ceramic installation was made in order to remember the ritual act of the Kolam described, embedding the fragments in the vessel form, thus permanently capturing the ritual performance. and this vessel form captures what people have walked on, and instead of it disappearing into the ground, those have been harvested and then as a memory captured. The traditional design of the kolam consists of a matrix or a grid of dots and continuous line drawing. The grid consists of sand, in my case, and ceramic fragments collected from previous outdoor kolam. The intact yellow ceramic pieces form the line drawing. A journey is followed by another journey. And in another case, where I've done it as a public artwork, the trees, parts, posts within the landscape become the grid of another kolam. Beginning of the week at dawn, I start doing the drawing. As the day progresses, the kolam gets eroded as people walk across it, and also as rain falls, leaving only traces. Over the weeks, the kolam is overlapped by another, forming a network of tracks. The kolam was also done as a ritual act, fresh water, mixing the slip, draw. So as the poem of Rabindranath Tagore, though its color be not deep and its smell be faint, use this flower in thy service and pluck it, while there is time. My flower is the kolam. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming here. My name is Sally Lee, and I'm here to talk to you all about my experiences in dealing with conflicting cultures and how I translate these experiences into my artwork. So first of all, I am full Chinese. My family on my mother's side is from Guangzhou, China. On my mother's side, my mom is in the middle child of two brothers, and she's on the right of both pictures here. In her 20s, she followed her older brother to England and got married, and my brother and I were born. So while we were living in the United Kingdom, my parents ran a couple of restaurants. This led us to move from England to Northern Ireland until I was 8 years old. When my parents got divorced, my mother brought the three of us to good old Little Rock, Arkansas. After finally getting settled here, I really started to notice the difference between my peers and I. They were American, familiar with social cues, and I didn't quite fit in. So in turn, I began to resent my family's culture, and of course, like most mother-daughter relationships, I began to resent her. So this piece was the beginning to my journey in trying to connect with my family and our culture. So to talk about our differences, I want to place emphasis that my treasures are not of monetary value. Rather, my treasures were the richness of our family time and the history of it. In my journey of really understanding myself, who I really am, I had to confront the issue of which culture I identified with. There's always been a feeling that the two cultures were constantly competing, though the Western part of me is very dominant. The Eastern counterpart was always in the background. So I asked myself, why choose? Why can't I be both or neither? Let's just have my artwork become my identity. So in this piece, I left the female bust without color in order to disassociate myself from both cultural stereotypes and sort of break free of what I felt was confining me. This installation was the first one where I started representing my mother's jade. There's a Chinese superstition that when a woman wears a jade bracelet, it protects you from harm, and the bracelet will take the fall for you. I put myself in my mother's shoes in the time we left our abusive father. We were hanging by a thread, and my mother felt broken. There's a constant presence in our lives where we were falling apart, but at the same time, she was trying to pull all the pieces back together as a single mother. By juxtaposing this idea of brokenness with the strength of jade, I found this to be the perfect representation of my mom. I want to embrace these experiences we went through together. In preparation for my BFA exhibition, I wanted to talk about this mother-daughter dynamic that existed at the time. The pressure of being successful was pushing me into a corner, feeling like my bubble was about to be burst. I painted this to determine my color scheme and forms to translate into an installation. And this was the final result. Buyalian in Chinese translate directly as shameless. But if we broke this phrase down word by word, it means to not care about face. Having face is a very important value in my culture, and my aspiration of becoming an artist was not viewed as a successful path. Isamu Noguchi's Akari light designs were my main influence for making my paper sculptures. As an Asian American or Japanese American, he had transformed a traditional form of Asian culture into something that was his own, and that's what I wanted to do as well. This informative video right here, coming up, is a video on the traditional techniques of making perfect brown paper gifu lanterns. And this helped me to determine how to make my sculptures that ultimately represented me. But because I'm not perfect, I wanted to make these forms irregular, and my intention was to emphasize these imperfections. As an undergraduate art student, I used the resources I could. This cardboard, a pencil holder tube thing, and everyone's best friend, a hot glue gun. So not only were they irregular, but they were also very fragile, which showed the relationship between the needles and the forms. I connected with using this rainfall kudzu paper because it felt incomplete, like the development of my identity at the time. This is a cone 6 celadon glaze, and once again, my mother appears in the form of jade needles. Like the Western term heart of gold, in China, my mom has a heart of jade. I use this to represent her good intentions and the gold luster tips to represent monetary value that was so prevalent in our lives and ultimately used to threaten how I was going to live my life. This installation made me realize that I could translate this feeling of being backed into a corner and being confined within limits into a more global concept. I abstracted my own symbolism so that it wasn't so specific to my own experiences. Therefore, it can be relatable to my audience and their own experiences of being cornered. I placed the paper sculptures and composed it so when the audience walked into the installation, they had to tiptoe around the space, which I'm sure everyone feels like they have to when addressing difficult conflicts in their lives. And I felt that I had to tiptoe around my mother a lot. Finally, I decided to not only make the forms close together, but to also make them interact. That the bubble is already popped, so the conversation of change must start. And that is my time, everybody. Thank you.
Now, the representation of ethnic identity and cultural practices have given voice to different communities. And these are the vernacular cosmopolitans. So in my second take, I'm going to walk you through an exhibition called The Vivid Cosmopolitans, Vivid Vernacular Cosmopolitans. So it starts with me performing a threshold ritual of Kolam, and she draws the Kolam to welcome those who enter the space. It symbolically marks the threshold of the journey. She commences by draping part of the sari across her body and removing her shoes. She takes the vessel containing the crushed yellow pieces, shards, from a previous Kolam and a previous journey to start the Kolam. Her hand first makes the matrix and the dots, and then the continuous line. In so doing, remembering the previous Kolam. So travel with me to the east. The east beckons her across the oceans. The ceramic installation of waveforms, the threshold of a journey, translating that journey. A vessel symbolically carries her, and at a distance you can just see a reflection of a gathering occurring of vivid color. Many from the diaspora across the globe and across Indian subcontinent make a pilgrimage to gather at holy sites to bathe in the sacred river of the Ganges at certain times in the Hindu calendar. And it is this devotional gathering that I'm trying to capture as vivid colors of saris and women giving devotional offerings at the holy river. The ceramic work captures the gathering as deconstructed elements of the sari: the fall, the border, the sleeve, in a decorative form. But by introducing elements of bleeding the design, the tear in the textile, and the gradual abstraction of textile design, I convey the transformation of the traditional culture. And the shadows also play a part. And now I will just, a poem by Mary Oliver describes what happened at Varanasi. So this is a poem from 1,000 Mornings. A woman was standing in the river up to her waist. She was lifting handfuls of water and spilling it over her body slowly and many times, as if until there came some moment of inner satisfaction between her own life and the river's. So this, the piece that you see now, the fabric is used as a metaphor to tell the narrative of hybridity in expression. The design of the sari, the colored pigments and thread are used as symbolic representation of the East. I superimpose textile to convey that transformation of the traditional culture. As they unfold, the ceramic form reveals that duality of expression. The fabric clay is cut to form a garment that embodies her as she is embarking on this pilgrimage eastbound. A hybrid composition is formed on clay, and the clay is cut for a garment and is formed on the body. A transparent white sari, like a veil, shows the image of her as a pilgrim at margins. She represents the diaspora, wearing a ceramic collar and half collar, cradling a sacred form, which is partly a representation of Shiva, as well as the Mari Koru symbol. As a gesture, a table draped in a sari welcomes those in the community for a feast. Ceramic vessels in the form of offerings are laid on a table. They are made from fabric impregnated with clay and decorated with sari design. The fabric that drapes her is now a ceramic offering. Two vessels coming together as hemispheres. Markings of bare feet with stain on ceramic step form shows her presence in the domestic ritual. As a creator of the threshold ritual of Kolam, where fragile turmeric yellow pieces were laid on a path, the experience of walking on those pieces was then captured in a vessel. The traces of the sand path, the crushed yellow pieces, are embedded in the vessel, and the bare feet again shows the ritual that preceded. Another threshold ritual was also captured where slip was used on an outdoor kolam. The kolam eroded as the rain washed away, but the dark vessel now containing the white slip was made as a memory of the experience of this kolam. The ceramic vessel forms resembling Hessian sacks. What you see now the title of the work is called Westbound, on a scattering of rice, red rice, imported from Sri Lanka. It translates the migration of people, westbound. The blue sari shows a window starting to unthread, as though you're seeing the departure of the diaspora from their origins. The form of ceramic scrolls made of porcelain paper clay with textile was inspired by the hand loom that is still used extensively in the Indian subcontinent to weave the saris. The pigments, gestural markings, elements of the sari textile of the East and as well as the West are layered with clay slip, stain, and enamel. They appear as landscapes traversed, and the thread connecting it shows that one journey follows another journey, as it is for the vivid vernacular cosmopolitans. Thank you very much.